Are you ready to learn what red flags keep an eye out for when looking for love?
Then we got you covered. I'm Brianna.
And I'm Alex.
And this is the podcast where we unpack reality TV and call out the bullshit.
So that you show up confidently while dating and in relationships.
Welcome to
Ditch the Script.
I love it.
Hello.
Hey, girlfriend. Happy to see you.
Happy to see you. Your face on Wednesdays, it makes me so happy. Like, I really do look forward to this time with you.
Me too. Every Wednesday morning, I'm like, okay, I have work to do. And then I get to record. And it's such like, and it happens like smack dab in the middle of my workday. And it's just a blessing. It gets me through like the whole week.
Because it's on hump day.
Hump day.
For me, I get to wake up and like do my morning thing, and then I get to start my day looking at your face and just having these really good convos.
What a gift.
It's special. It is, though. It is.
Yeah, it's awesome.
You're the best.
You're the best.
So, tell me what's going on in your life. Any new news?
Yeah. I actually had to prioritize going on a date last night as opposed to watching The Bachelorette live as we have been. So I told my mom and dad, I said, sorry, mom and dad, not tonight. I went on, this was a first date with someone from Hinge. We met up for,
not the guy who was like, your friend's cute.
No,
not that one.
That one did not get a rose for me.
No. Yeah.
So, no, we met up and we actually saw a movie together because they're $5 Tuesday specials. So that was interesting. I've never gone on a first date with a person that I didn't know and see a movie.
Yeah.
It was really interesting.
So you, first of all, we got to back up. I need name. I need like, or if you don't feel comfortable saying name because the podcast, I realize we need a nickname. We need, what does he do? What are the details?
Okay. So, his name is, I guess we could think of a nickname, but maybe you can help me out with that. Even though I just said his name, he's from South Africa. He works he works at a country club, and he came over to the US in 2019 as part of like a abroad work program that he had to apply for. So him and a number of other people from South Africa are also like down here working seasonal country club gigs. So he specifically works in Jupiter for the winter, and then goes to Wyoming and works at another club over there during the summer months.
Cool.
Yeah, he was pretty interesting. Same age. Obviously, like cultures are very different, but he was very nice. Nice guy.
Yeah.
Little jittery. He was a jittery bug.
Okay, wait, so you went to the movies. How was that? Because, like, me personally, like we've talked about, like, I want to, like, talk. I want to get to know. And movies, you clearly can't sit there and play 20 questions. So how was it? Like, honestly, just from your experience.
First instinct was, like, I felt like I was teleported to high school, where I was, like, sitting at a movie with a boy. That was very it sort of like put me in a weird headspace, and then I'm much better at checking in with myself as I'm like living and breathing or going through like a stressful moment. So I just sort of checked in with myself and was like, Brianna, you're not in high school, you are 30 years old, like, this is okay. When we were waiting in line to buy a ticket, we saw King Richard, by the way.
Okay, cool.
And we were waiting in line to buy a ticket, and I was just sort of like, we were doing the small chat there and just like getting to know each other sort of quickly. But I think it really depends on the person. He and I were able to sort of go back and forth like quite easily, and that felt really natural.
Oh, good.
So it felt pretty comfortable being able to just like get through a bit of like awkward small talk to like little laugh jokey moments, and then we like sat down and I was sort of more worried that he was going to try to talk to me throughout the movie because I don't want to do that. I want to just like be in the, if I'm at the movie theater, if I have dragged my ass to the movie theater, I am invested in what's in front of me.
I'm the same way. We'll have to piggyback on that combo here in a second. So like vibes, like, did you feel like, you know, we want to see him again? Is it where are you at now?
Yeah, I think I definitely want to see him again, but I don't think that I want to see him in a romantic way. Like, he's someone that,
so he's a friend.
Yeah, me personally, I just didn't feel like super attracted to him. Like I could, there were moments towards the end of like, we spent like an hour after the movie talking. And while that was really nice and I really enjoyed talking to him, a couple of things I noticed. One, I was asking a lot of questions and not getting a whole lot of questions in return. That's not what didn't attract me to him. That was just like something that I was like,
observed.
Yeah, I was aware of. And the other thing is that there were moments when he was like trying to like bring himself physically closer to me. And my immediate, like the hairs on my body were just sort of like, but more in the, like, I don't want you to be closer to me. I want like a healthier distance between us. And maybe I'm just like slower to warm like that. Right. But I think my body was sort of sending a message that like, I wasn't craving that contact. So I'm choosing to listen to that.
Beautiful.
The final thing that I noticed about not feeling like this was like a romantic connection is that we were sort of just talking about like his long-term plans, and he is very much set on closing out work in the next 2 years and traveling to, he pulled up a map that had like 800 green dots of places that he wanted to go to. And it sounds like he wants to spend a large portion of the rest of his life traveling from place to place. Yeah. And while that is incredible and I admire that, and there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I want to do some of that too. My goals in life don't include traveling for years at a time.
Right.
I really want to like settle down. Why
I really applaud you for two things here. Like, one, having the awareness and the presence in the moment to feel how your body is responding to someone trying to close that gap is fucking huge. And I think for anyone listening, like, is like somatic experiences, like being able to recognize like how your body feels and responds, and how anxiety or any kind of tension arises in your body, how does it manifest for you, because it's all different. Right. And I think that, you know, it's kind of like you hear stories of women who are like, oh, I was getting on the elevator with this guy and I had this gut feeling that like something wasn't right, but then I didn't want to be rude, so I got on the elevator anyway. And lo and behold, they ended up being attacked in some way, shape, or form, right? And so the reason I just wanted to like take a moment and highlight you being like, oh, I felt my body kind of trying to tell me like, oh, we're not ready for that yet. For whatever reason, you know, it doesn't mean the guy's a crazy person or anything, but just that Brie in that moment wasn't ready for that next step, nor was she really looking for it. And that is okay, you know, and then honoring that. Huge. I think out of what I was saying before with that story is women try to, we almost like self-gaslight. We're like, no, my intuition's on. Yeah. And it's not true. Your body knows. Like, listen to it. So that's one thing. I just want to give you a round of applause because that's huge. And I think, get it, girl. I think a lot of women need to embrace that. And so thanks for leading by example.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that's a specific feature of my personal journey, especially within the context of dating, that I have really struggled with for a very long time. You and I have both sort of mentioned like leading with physical action first and like reflecting and feeling second. And I've spent a long time better understanding that impulse and what that means to me, And a new tool that I'm using is exactly what you're talking about, which is taking an opportunity to check in with my body about how it's reacting in the moment, and choosing to trust it and listen to it, and leading with that. So thank you.
Yes. Beautiful. And I will say, if anyone wants to start practicing that, because it takes practice, is you got to start like kind of checking in with that daily. You know, what am I feeling? Why, like, how do I know I'm experiencing anxiety right now? How do I know I'm experiencing sadness, right? Like literally start to pay attention to the signals your body gives off, because it's different for everyone. So you got to know you. You got to know you. The other thing I think is dope about what you just shared with us is that you know what your values are, your core values, and what your long-term goals are. And so as you date and you get to know this person, like very quickly, you're like, ooh, I'm seeing something already on a first date where potentially our lifestyles may not align long-term, right? So that's something to note. And I think a lot of times that if anyone goes out on a date and they aren't really clear on what, you know, have a rough idea of what their life would look like in 5 years, 10 years, whatever, or what kind of relationship they're looking for, that clarity is not there. So it's harder to recognize if someone's a good fit for us. It takes longer. So and if we don't want to waste our time dating, again, you got to know you got to know what your values are. You got to know what you envision for your life and your partnership to weed out the ones who aren't a good fit for you as quickly as possible. So again, thanks for leading by example and being like, ooh, this guy wants to travel the world. That's dope.
Yeah.
That's really dope. I want to travel some, but I don't necessarily want that to be a lifestyle of traveling for consecutive years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate that. I think if I could continue to use this experience as an example for other people, particularly people who fall under the category or identify with like people pleasing tendencies, like I'm a big, I've been trained, right? I've been trained for many years to like, to do what I imagine other people are expecting of me. And a lot of times that sort of gets muddled with how my energy shows up in social spaces. And it's blurry because I'm also a very extroverted person. So I can quickly just sort of tap right into the stronger want, feeling, or plan that someone else in front of me has. For example, if this guy was like, I'm going to travel to like 80 countries in the next 5 years and yada, yada, yada. An older version of me would have been thinking, oh my God, I could see myself doing that with him too. This is what I'm going to be doing. What would it look like to to just jump on that train? That's what he wants. I want to spend time with this person. That must be what I want too.
Yeah.
And that is like, I've had to come so much further away from that. It has required spending time with myself to really like ask myself, what is it that you want? What is important to you right now? If you actually think about what, you know, the next 5 years of your life looks like, what are you hoping to see? And then starting to challenge myself of how do I assign language to this so that I can feel comfortable in owning that, especially around men that I tend to sort of just slide right next to and say, what are you up to? What do you want?
Yeah. I want that too.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And, you know, I've made the joke a couple times on Instagram, but I'm going to say it here. I'm a big believer that people pleasing and codependency are the OG pandemic. And I think it comes from a mixture of things like rom-coms, Hollywood, obviously like the generation who raised us and what their belief systems and like the lack of prioritizing of mental health for that generation, you know what I mean? And how it's impacted us. And then our generation's like getting all woke and we're like, mental health matters, you know, men are allowed to cry, women need to be treated equally, all races, all genders, all orientations. And so we're kind of like, it's actually really dope that we're a part of this generation, I feel like, because we are putting an end or attempting to put an end to as much of this baloney that's out there as possible, including exactly what you just said, this belief that, you know, we need to appease in order to be accepted, right? Like I need to conform to you in order to be chosen, in order to be accepted, when in reality, it's like, nah, man, you are you are uniquest you that will ever be and the only you that will ever be on this planet. So do you and find someone who matches that instead of you changing for the other. So love that. Yeah.
I really hope that people who are listening that may resonate with my experience and some of the tips that you've highlighted and things that you've shared about your own journey up until this point can.
Oh, I got more.
Yeah, I know. Between the two of us. No, I hope that they see some parts of themselves in our stories. And like, while I wouldn't call my date last night a personal struggle, I actually find it to be incredibly successful for me.
I agree.
So I hope that I hope that I can share that with other people with the intention of feeling like we want people to feel more in line with themselves so that they can make more choices that are in line with who they are and what they want, and making as wonderful of a life as they possibly can, leading with those intentions.
Yeah. And ditching the scripted narrative.
That's right.
That this world tends to put on genders and all the things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So love it. Hence the name.
Good chat. Good chat.
Yeah. Really good chat. I think this is so great. And also it's so empowering, like for you, you know, to be able to go out there and date at this new level and this new ability to be present and conscious in the moment, right? Instead of getting swept up with, is he cute? Oh my gosh, his accent, right? That's another thing. We need an accent vaccine too.
Girl.
Tall guy vaccine. Accent back. I'm gonna get pseudo dad to rep the troops.
Yeah, the accent had me tripping for a minute. I won't lie. It had me tripping. We're working on it.
Yeah.
I'm getting a booster.
No,
I'm getting a booster. We're working on it.
No, I think it's great. Yeah. And like, I think talking about this stuff, it's relatable. Like, but look, this is what's fascinating about humans to me. And this is something I learned when I was in the fitness industry and kind of doing like a form of occupational therapy. But like, so many people want to believe that they're the only one that experiences what they're experiencing, you know, or they assume that. Maybe they don't want to necessarily want to believe they're the only one, but they want to assume, you know, no one knows what it feels like to go through what I'm going through, right? And that's why last night I made this super emotional post on social media, because the reality is we are way more connected than we even realize. And our actions and our words and our behaviors impact one another. And it's like, it's really cool when we can come together and share our stories and be like, me too. You're a people pleaser. Me too. You struggle with codependency within relationships. Me too. And this is what I've done to change my life.
Right.
Come with me on this journey.
Right.
Like, I just feel like that's such a beautiful and, again, empowering message to really embrace, because it's true, one. And two, it makes you feel like less of a crazy person going through your own shit.
Yeah, totally. Far less alone. Makes you feel like there's other people that are going through this that can relate to this, which must mean that there's options for me out here, because it's not like, while we might have the shared feeling and the shared experience, I know that we're not all hopeless. So what else is out there? What resources are out there? What can I learn from other people? What can I learn from myself?
Yeah. Word.
Yeah.
100. Oh, so December.
It's December. It's December 1.
It is the first of the last month of 2021. Can you believe it?
Yes. And also no. I was thinking today just about like, sometimes I get a little tripped up about the fact that like time happens incredibly fast. You really think about it? Every month is just 4 weeks, sometimes 5. This December happens to be like 4.5, 5-ish. But it's just a couple of weekends make up a month, and a couple of months make up an entire year, and boom, like rent's due.
Santa Claus is coming.
Yeah. Santa Claus is coming. Rent is due. The Easter Bunny is around the corner. And it's very like, it's very challenging. But having that been said, while that can be like a little bit of a whirlwind, and I'm sorry if I stress anyone out by saying all of that, I also, I find it to be like an amazing opportunity to just continue to like see what other changes are possible to make, even like very small changes, to like benefit, your experience of the day-to-day functioning, if it's possible. So I don't know. I wanted to sort of check in with you about like, how do you feel on this very last month of a unusual year?
I'm excited for this last month. I mean, I think 2020 and 2021 for me, but also for a lot of people, there was a lot of growth and a mixed bag of emotions on the daily because of everything happening in the world. And then also what's happening in my own life and my business and my relationship, whatever. But I'm really, really excited for this last month because of where I am and who I'm becoming today. Because there's nothing, I'll be really honest, and I know you know this, entrepreneurship is like a fast track to personal growth. Like there's,
Girl.
yeah.
Girl.
Just like relationships, like I say it all the time, you know, being single is a blessing. It's great. Like if you're single and you haven't met your person yet, I know the want and the desire to find that person can be so strong, but appreciate this time because you're in this time for a reason, right? To learn a lesson, to grow, whatever. But the second we get into relationships, all of the insecurities we didn't need to face while single come bubbling to the surface. But It's the same thing with entrepreneurship, you know? And so ironically, or I guess more interesting and fascinating just because I'm such a nerd, the things I've had to work through with relationships and like understanding my attachment style and how to self-soothe and like how do I show up and communicate more effectively, I have now had to do a lot of the same kind of work for my business, for entrepreneurship. And it's just been such a cool process to kind of witness in myself, and really cool to look back on like old journal entry. I'm a weirdo. I keep my journal entries. I give assignments to clients all the time, like write a letter, do this journal prompt, and like, and if you want to, if it feels cathartic, rip it or burn it or whatever,
right.
You know?
But for you, you want to refer back to it, and that's useful.
Yeah, I am a weirdo and I like to kind of document my journey. And I have journal entries from like 5 years ago that I will occasionally sift through and be like, oh my gosh, here I am really struggling to be able to maintain my sense of self, and look at me today. And like, or even just limiting beliefs I had a year and a half ago when I started my business to where I am now. I'm like, that doesn't even cross my mind anymore, which is so cool. And so this December, I feel like it's kind of the buildup of all of that, and I'm really, really excited to see what happens this month with the clients. And that's the other thing is like my clients this week, it's been really fun to be able to see all of the wins coming in, you know, people witnessing their triggers come up, and instead of giving into them, they know what to reach for. And like, oh, I'm at the start of this, you know, I had a client the other day that has the tendency to like get attached too quickly. Like if they get a small amount of attention, they're like, oh my God, you're my person. Right. And so I had this client share with me a win the other day that they're like, I felt that. I could literally hear my mind and feel the feelings arise. And I put my phone down. I was like, he was like, it's okay to be friends. You know, like I don't need to rush this process. And I think that is so amazing. And like, so this kind of goes back to what I was saying is like, it is a ripple effect, you know, my growth impacts my business, impacts my clients' growth impacts their worlds. And like, it's just so, I just love it. Yeah. And so that's my summation, or like what I've experienced this year, and like how I'm feeling about this month coming up, and all the things. That's pretty powerful. What about you? That's pretty powerful. But before I tell you that, I just have to like give you some kudos to say like, look at what you've done. And it's like, it is your business, it is what you are doing. And it's all of the energy and work that you choose to put in to what you do, who you work for, and for yourself every single day. But it's also, you know, it's a team effort with the clients that you work with. You know that you cannot affect that change for them. So I say, look at what you've done and look at what they've done. And it's really fucking cool to be in that seat and watch that growth happen from yourself, move and flow through them. So good job, girlfriend. It's fucking badass. I love it. Oh, thank you. I love it. It makes me so happy.
I know.
To just be able to, you get it,
Yeah.
to be able to impact people. Even with this, like the few of you that have reached out to us and we've chit chatted with, like, thank you. Like we care. We truly do care about you, and we want this show to be useful for you. So thanks for reaching out and telling us that you enjoy the show and all the things. Like, guys, we are sending you so much love, and thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, we're with you, and you're with us, and you're helping us.
Yeah.
And you're helping us grow as well. So
Yeah.
we're really grateful.
What about you?
Okay, so I really feel that pretty similar to you, with your experience of just like going through the woes of building a business. I feel incredibly empowered. I feel empowered with all of this change that I've made in the work that I do. I feel empowered in the clinical skills that I continue to like work on building and utilizing in my business. I feel empowered in who I am as a woman right now. I feel empowered in the spaces that I'm trying to occupy in dating, and relevant to this being December 2021, following still processing in the middle of a pandemic. You know, the pandemic I've taken the last almost 2 years off of dating entirely. For a while, it just wasn't safe. It wasn't safe for me. It wasn't safe for the people that I lived with. It wasn't safe for the people that I worked with. Right. And then when it was safer, it started to feel safer, I made the decision to move. So I had another year in an area that I did not want to build any long-term commitments to anymore, romantically. So I was focused. I shifted my focus on spending my time with the people that I loved, that already were so deserving of like all of my time, energy, and like time spent together. But it gave me 2 years of an opportunity to like reflect on some of my problematic patterns in dating, some really uncomfortable, hard truths about myself, my relationship with intimacy, my relationship with sex, my relationship with men. And I'm all the more better for having taken that time. So I feel incredibly empowered, and I'm excited to like get back into the world in these ways.
Yeah. I'm stoked for you. Like, oh, and it's already been so fun to hear the stories. I'm such a girl. I'm like, I want to know all the details.
Yeah. Every text message is like, I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to have to hold on to them.
Yeah, guys, the other night when Brie told me she had a date, I was like, I had to contain. It was really funny because I told Jordan, I was like, I really want to ask her like all the details, but I feel like I can't because we have to wait for the show. And like, we take this seriously.
So seriously. I'm so sorry to put you through all of that. But we do it for us and for you.
Yeah, yeah. But going back to what you said, like, super proud of you. I remember when we were FaceTiming over COVID and you were like, so I think I'm going to move to Florida in like a year. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so exciting. And I remember saying to you, like, it'll come quicker than you even realize. And now here we are.
Time, man.
It's
a funny fucking
most
thing.
valuable asset.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Use it wisely.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for sharing all of your dating growth experiences. And, you know, I'm really excited to see where this journey takes you. And
Me too.
We're all with you along for this
Me
ride.
Too. Thanks for caring. We might watch me fall in love on this show.
I hope that's the goal, I think. No pressure.
I don't know if
we're having our own version of The Bachelorette on this podcast.
You know, I had a thought where I was like, I think we might have to bleep out his name. Would I give this person a rose? And I would, but only like episode 1, you know?
Yeah. Like you're not a villain, so I'm not going to send you home right away, but we're going to keep you.
We're going to keep
just
you.
because.
Because we love your accent.
Yeah. Does he speak Afrikaans?
We did not.
I assume.
We did not touch that. We didn't touch it.
Okay. I had a really good friend in high school who was a foreign exchange student from South Africa, and she taught me how to say "Hoe gaan het met jou" in Afrikaans, which just means like, "Hey, what's up?" or something.
That is gorgeous.
Thanks. I feel like I butchered the pronunciation, but you know, if I ever, which I'm not, gonna meet this guy, that would be my own. I would try and bond with him over my once. I'm that much of This is why Alex is happily not on the market anymore.
You're learning like bits and pieces of new languages in an effort to connect.
Oh yeah. Yep. That was me. Jordan, I got him with, because he doesn't speak another language. I mean, he speaks okay Spanish, but with him, I just was cracking really bad Star Wars jokes.
Yeah, I was going to say he speaks Yoda.
I got him. Mm-hmm. He speaks Yoda.
And so do you.
That's right. Yep.
I love it.
Oh my God, I'm laughing. The old Alex would have been so humiliated, but now I'm just like, yep,
oh my God, no, that's your truth. And it landed you your man.
So true. So hashtag
I fucking
grateful.
love that. Yep, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, we do. All right.
We have a Bachelorette to break down.
Yes, we do have a badge breakdown for you all. I'm getting my notes ready. Oh my God, these notes are really long. They're very organized, though.
All of that is hilarious to me, but I expected all of it. I'm excited. This episode sort of had me shook.
Oh yeah.
Like I just didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know who was going to go home. I have a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings. So I'm ready.
I'm so excited to hear it.
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. So hometowns, we got our 4 guys this week. Nate, Brandon.
It is
Brandon.
Brandon.
Both Jordan and I were like, oh, we would have sworn it was Brandon.
There's something in my chest that said, I think this is wrong. I think this is wrong. It's Brandon. Mm-hmm.
It is Brandon. And then we had Rodney and we had
Joe.
Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota Joe.
Minnesota Joe.
So,
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. First of all, his brother pushing off him joining the Navy or I guess going off to boot camp or whatever. To meet him and to meet her and see Brandon with Michelle. I thought that was super sweet of his brother. He's got to jump through a couple hoops to do that. So
yeah, totally.
Thought that was cool. Going into it, Michelle did say like this is one of the strongest connections that she has. And so I was interested to see how this fell out. And for me personally, as a viewer, as you and I have been saying, it's felt very much kind of like puppy love, like, you know, in that vibe. Mm-hmm. And for me, this date, I needed this, actually. I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it. So, yeah, they go to a skate park. Poor guy's so nervous. He keeps eating shit. What were your thoughts on the skate park date?
It reminded me of something you had said a couple of episodes ago. I don't even remember which guy this was about, but you were sort of like, I think it was Joe. It was someone, but basically you were like, I loved being able to see him falter and be like imperfect.
Yeah.
So I loved that Brandon was absolutely like the most unskilled at skateboarding in this date that he planned. I thought it was really cute. I thought that the two of them like played really well together. And yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you think?
Yeah. I have a note in here saying that, I think it's really sweet that he was expressing how much skating meant to him and because of the bond it developed with his brother and then by extension his family as a whole, which I thought was really cool. But my note in here was that watching someone fail is a huge indicator of their emotional maturity and character. And so watching him screw up over and over again and not getting angry or not like taking that on like a definition of his value, you know what I mean, or anything like that, I thought was really cool. Like he was laughing at himself and like obviously frustrated, but not allowing that to like ruin the mood of the date. You know, he still stayed playful for her. Whereas sometimes guys, when they screw up in front of a girl, it can be really emasculating and embarrassing for them and can bring out sides of them that aren't necessarily the most attractive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love what you had to say about that. And then they go into the family date night situation.
Yeah, what were your thoughts on us, well, just Michelle, I guess. Michelle meeting Brandon's family. What did you notice?
I thought they were all great. Like I think here's what I did notice. I love that she admitted how she initially perceived Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought he was a smooth talker. Because for me, I was like, yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was kind of wondering,
Mm-hmm.
you know, which allowed his brother, I forget Brandon's brother's name. I apologize, Brandon's brother, whoever you are. But when he pulled Michelle aside, spoke to that. He was like, yeah, I know what you saw, but I want you to know he has a huge heart and is super sensitive, you know?
Yeah.
And I think another thing that was really cool to notice, and this was true of all of her hometowns, is all of the parents are interracial couples.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there was a lot of relatability going on, and you can tell that that is a value of hers, of having someone who understands the dynamic and the challenges that people of color have to go through, you know what I mean? And what is that going to be like for you in this partnership? How is that going to, you know, define how we interact and show up in this world as a couple? So I thought that was really cool. I freaking loved her and his dad, Michelle, and his.
I actually,
they were buds.
It's a shame that they were the first group to see her interact with, because out of all of the families that she connected with, that chat with Brandon's dad was easily like the most chemistry. There was the most like familial chemistry, and she had named it. You know, this being the first hometown that we got to see in this episode, I at first I felt like Michelle was being quite reserved. Like I don't know if she seemed nervous or if she didn't have like a whole reservation of feelings to offer to Brandon's parents, who she was assuming like desperately were going to want to hear about how she felt about their son. And she sort of said it herself that like expressing herself is a bit more challenging than it seems like it is for Brandon. And so it seemed like a situation where she felt like she had more room to grow there out of the two of them. But then she ended up being the first person. I mean, I know that he told her that he was falling in love with her an episode ago, but he was the only person out of these hometown dates that she initiated that conversation with. And that stuck out to me.
Yeah, I agree. And just to chit chat about what you were saying about Michelle's energy of like, was she guarded? Was she nervous? I noticed that later on in the episode. I didn't notice it in this setting necessarily, but I did make a note saying, I personally feel Michelle went in wanting to be as neutral and observant as possible with all of these families, instead of being like, oh, for example, if Joe was her number one, going in and putting all of her eggs in the Joe family basket. Like, I think she very much was trying to be like,
agreed.
Let me be present, let me be here for you, which I do think kind of had her wanting to be a little bit more passive and kind of watch and observe and like see. But yeah, I wrote at the end, my recap for this was great for me. Like I was happy to see his family, how they interact, how they speak to each other. And I was happy to see Brandon finally relax with his mom and actually articulate his feelings, because I don't know if you remember, but like over these last episodes, I've been like, I just want more depth, you know, from him and me. I was like, I just want more depth. Like who is this person? Yeah. So I felt like I got more of that this time. And he shot up for me in that one date. Like as far as my mental rankings of like how I would rank these men, he shot through the roof.
I think he shot up for her as well. Like, I think that this whole experience did a lot for her. And good for Brandon. I'm rooting for him. I really don't want
and we got your name right.
Got your name right. Every episode that we talk about him, I think that I mention this poor boy is going to get his heart broken, because I just see these other like front runners in Nate and in Joe. But this episode had me rethinking that. I'm still worried about him. But we'll
talk about that.
Yeah,
at the end.
we sure will. Oh, cool. Oh, we're gonna do a hypotheses section.
I will. I'll share my
Ooh, good, because I
hypotheses.
sort of have one too.
Okay,
Okay,
cool.
great. Shall we move on to Rodney?
Yeah.
What?
Apple Man.
Apple Man, who just keeps coming with.
Can't put it down.
It's exactly how I felt. It's exactly how I felt. He just like knew more creative ways to use apple in a pun.
Yeah, so he went and took her apple picking for a unique apple that only grows in Minnesota.
Which is called First
cool.
Kiss.
Can I just say, yeah. I actually, yeah. I put, at this point, I feel like they aren't vibing 100%. Her eyes in that kiss is what I said. I feel like after Brandon and the contract, I'm assuming, okay, I don't know. I'm assuming that they organize this episode in the order they actually meet the families, right? So I very much believe she met Brandon's family first. And I think after the high of that, in the contrast of what was lacking with Rodney, was what was going on this entire
interesting
date.
Okay, what did you find to be lacking?
It was her face.
It was
like there were so many times where she wasn't as into him as he was into her. And it was hard for me because in all of her confessionals, she was like, you know, Rodney's like my best friend. We laugh so hard. And she like kept saying all these really positive things. And like, even to his family, you know, I see myself with your son. But the energy of her interacting with Rodney in real time did not match what she was saying. And a part of me, again, feels like that was partially Michelle wanting to be open-minded and give everyone an even shot. And two, the producers being like, we need to have you kind of play this part to see the episode through.
Totally. Because if she wasn't actually feeling it, she was going to have to be reserved about the things that she shared with his family. Yeah, that's interesting. I had a very different perspective, a different lens on when I was watching their interactions, because I mean, from the beginning, like Rodney and Michelle have always had like a very like buddy, like BFF.
Yeah. Playful,
which has been really great. And I think that as I've watched the show and their relationship play out, I've held it to a really high value because of Michelle's constant
desire for
it. Yes,
it.
Exactly. Her expression of saying, my parents are best friends. They laugh all of the time. That's what I want. That's what I want. Has sort of like continued to put Rodney back up top to say she very much has this relationship with him that feels familiar with what her parents share, at least through her perspective. And I think that I was looking for all of those things in her experience with Rodney. And I don't think that it was actually painfully obvious to me that she didn't make any like specific commitments to, or she didn't make any like confessions to his parents about how she felt about him. And she didn't tell him that she was falling in love with him. And I didn't notice those things until we were at the end of the episode.
Okay. So yeah, I the other thing that I have in here is that when she was talking to his family, you know, she kept using like, Rodney's like my best friend. And I think that's true. I think Rodney is Michelle's best bud. I think that next level of like best friend who I like to F-U-C-K. I don't know why. I cuss all the time. Best friend who I like to fuck. You know, I think that part is missing, that magnetism of like, I am drawn to you in a deeper way. You know, and we'll see some of the contrast with that with the last two people we have coming up to analyze. But yeah, it just feels like she loves Rodney, but she's not in love with Rodney, you know?
Yeah. Totally get
and
that.
So, yeah. The other thing I thought was really interesting about him, and I couldn't tell if this is truly who he is, because some people are just really happy, giddy, and like very smiley, like all the time. totally amazing quality to have. I couldn't tell if that was genuinely Rodney or if he was trying to make that date as fun. And so he was kind of like putting that energy on to try and bring her in with that vibe with him. So that's just me being super honest with like what I witnessed, and I couldn't necessarily put a finger on like where that was coming from.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see him trying to lead with good times, good energy. I want you to have a great time, because how could you want to kick me out if you're having such a good time? Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. And I have a friend who, she's so rad, but she is like that. She is like very high energy all of the time, really positive, which is amazing, right? But it takes a specific person like that where it's genuine, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where she genuinely is lit up about waking up every morning. And like, that is just, and it's magnetizing. Like I love being having her in my life because of that, but I just couldn't tell, with him. Yeah. And so, and that's okay. I'm not saying that it really, again, that doesn't define Rodney as great or not great. It's just more a mixed match in energy is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
There was something that came up in the Rodney segment of Hometowns that I wanted to sort of have a larger conversation about, which was Rodney's mom expressing her concern about Rodney getting heartbroken.
Yeah.
And this is a shared concern of all of the family members that like show up in at this like part of the show. Her concern was, I'm worried about you. I'm worried about how this could affect you if you are heartbroken. And I just sort of wanted to take a moment to remind myself, to remind us, to remind anyone who's listening to this that like, while heartbreak is undoubtedly a horrible thing to feel, it's also a privilege to feel it and to go through it. And I think I just wanted to sort of like ask you what your thoughts were on like this sort of like collective fear that we have of getting heartbroken.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Rodney and then I'll answer that like from a zoomed out lens. But look, I want to first acknowledge that our parents love us and want the best for us and obviously want to protect us. And at the same time, they need to allow us to learn our own lessons and make our own mistakes, right? And so in this case, like Rodney, after his mom expresses that concern, and Rodney very much is like, this is how I feel about her, and she kind of drops it, you know, she's like, okay, like if you're that invested, I'm going to respect that, which I think is the best way she could have handled that in the moment. But at the end of the day, like Rodney and whoever, you know, like we need to take the risk that we want to take. And there is nothing wrong with that. Right. And so going back to what you were saying about heartbreak is if you live it from a place of fear and scarcity consistently, like I'm only going to get heartbroken, or like if I put myself out there, what if I'm not, you know, what if my feelings aren't reciprocated? And you live in that mindset, it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
And so it's just like, and there's a million ways you can work on your mindset and your belief system and all of that. But as we were kind of saying a couple weeks ago or last week about Clayton and like, you know, I put myself out there and then I get hurt again. You cannot, if you truly want healthy, long-term, stable love, you cannot stay in a victim mindset, because then all you do is, again, shoot yourself in the foot. You push off the opportunity for love every second you decide to sit in that. And so, it's like, feel your fear and do it anyway. Like it is truly a courageous thing, because I can promise you, you will get more no's than you will get yeses, right? It's like auditioning and the performing arts. Like you kind of have to build up that tough skin. And I don't mean hiding your heart or being overly protective of yourself. But what I mean is the day that it does work out and you get a yes, and the day that you do meet your person, you are going to be so happy you didn't give up. And so focus on that part of the story instead of the trial and error it takes to get
Right.
there.
Right. And I think that actually what you said is such a beautiful example of how Rodney experienced the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
Should we spoiler alert what happens here?
Sure.
So,
beep beep, spoiler alert.
beep beep, spoiler alert. We have two more dates to talk about, but just on this topic, it's like mom is so concerned about Rodney getting hurt, and Rodney didn't get pushed through to the final three. He got sent home in a totally like respectful and like gracious way.
Yeah.
And he handled it with a lot of grace.
Yeah.
So if there is ever an example here that like you can be worried for other people, you can be worried for yourself, but just know that if and when you go through something like this, even something that you fear this much, you can handle it. You will survive it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Keep going, because I promise you it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I fully agree with that. Okay. Any else?
All right.
Anything else on Mr. Apple Pie?
Nope. Bye, Apple Teeny Man. We love you.
We love you.
All the best.
R.I.P. Sorry, he's not dead. Long live Rodney, and go forth in your dating journey.
Prosper.
He's gonna find someone amazing, because he truly is. He truly is amazing. He's an amazing dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, maybe that person will really like apples too.
They might have to.
I know it started with the teacher joke, but I just feel like at this point that man truly loves his apples.
It's looking like a kink, if you ask me.
Yeah.
It's looking like a kink.
Yeah. Ooh, apple play.
Yum.
Yeah. Okay. So Minnesota Joe is next. And this was so fascinating for me to watch.
Yeah. Minnesota Joe.
Yeah.
Ooh, my nipples almost came out.
Yes. I'm here for it. Thanks. I'm gonna keeping it spicy over here in this episode.
In every way possible. Minnesota Joe.
Love it.
I love that. I love that they stayed in Minneapolis, which it sort of feels like they had to, but we got a chance to have Michelle go to Joe's high school. And
I thought that was hilarious.
what an awkward little bird he is. He's such an awkward bird.
Yeah. I kind of love it about him.
Yeah.
I really do.
He's awkward.
Yeah, I thought it was, I won't lie. I put Joe's now going to take her to his school, and I put in all caps, lame. Only because we were shitting on the high school date last time. But yeah, he brought her to his high school spot and planted one on her there, because that was apparently something he had low-key fantasized about in high school days. I totally get that, all right, cool. But he hit it out of the park with the prom thing.
The prom.
I thought that was so thoughtful and so considerate and just such a sweetheart. And there's a personal story of mine that goes along with this. And I think I never went to prom with a date. I always went single. Even the year that I had a boyfriend, he refused to go to prom with me. Yeah.
What's his address?
He actually lives out here in California now, so yeah.
What's his phone number?
Maybe the next time. I know. I don't know. I
have words to speak with him.
I just know he's in LA. But anyway, what my point is that when you're in high school, prom at that time kind of is a big deal to you, and not having someone to go with, or not feeling chosen right by someone to go with, it can feel it hurts your ego, and it hurts your soul, because it makes you question your worth, right? And so for me, am I wounded and traumatized from that experience? No, I'm a little bitter, but but thinking of if having a guy who was oh, you never got to go on a date to prom, let me make that happen for you in some way. I thought that was so sweet and tender, because he picked up on that from Michelle's poem, let me make this a night for you. Let me make you feel wanted. Let me make you feel, like a prom queen.
Yeah.
And he did that with donuts, I might add, which are my favorite.
Send it. I threw my pen. through my pen.
I freaking love donuts, man. They're just so good.
Well, it's just like, it wraps up the whole experience. What he did here is he took, and he also mentioned that like he never had a girlfriend during prom, so he never like had a date. So he took this like painful experience for her, like, and this was painful for her. And he recreated it into a really positive, wonderful experience for her. And if you study healing arts like we do, that is actually incredibly beneficial to someone's like well-being. Yeah. Incredibly beneficial. Yeah. So Joe earned major points. I don't know how much help he had with the date and the idea of it, but if we're going to assume it was all his, he did a very good job. And I also thought it was really sweet. I loved it.
Yeah. Their photo booth pics too were like gold. Yeah. So I got to remember some of those poses or something. It was just so cute.
Prom poses.
It was so cute. And he got her a beautiful dress and like, made her feel beautiful, made her feel seen. Yeah. And I think, going back to what you say, like part of healing work is going back to that memory, that event, and doing what you weren't able to do last time, so that's like very surface level describing it, but it's true. And so for her, she got to go back to that scene, that time, and live her prom life dreams and experience that. And that is so cathartic for a human soul. It really is.
Yeah. He crushed it. Absolutely crushed it.
Yeah. And then she describes it as a fairy tale, which I could get those vibes. Mm-hmm. And then they go meet his fam.
Mm-hmm. Which was a very interesting dynamic. You have your hands over your mouth. It was a really interesting gathering for me. Yeah. What's going on with you over there? Let me check in. How you doing?
So piggybacking off of what we just chatted about with Rodney and the mixed match in energy, his family is super chill, which is great. Not, they're very quiet people. They're not super talkative, and that's okay. There's, but I do wonder, because in contrast with Michelle and Brandon's dad, who are like, we're going to go fishing, we're going to do this. It's like that chemistry with the fam it wasn't negative, but it wasn't bubbling.
Yeah, it sure wasn't. I want to respect the fact that Joe's sister-in-law had she had some like illuminating comments that sort of gave insight to the specific communication patterns that I guess more commonly reside in the men of this family, but that they are quiet and they are reserved and they are soft-spoken. And I want to pay respects to the validity of those communication styles. It was very interesting to see play out in a situation where it felt like Michelle was like, I'm curious to see if you've seen how your son has grown. I don't think that we got that confirmation that he had grown, but as viewers who have been able to see more intimate scenes with Joe that maybe his parents haven't seen, especially if they're like not watching it, I think that we have seen some personal growth. And I actually think that was confirmed when the two of them had a private moment after the family event and before he sent her off. Like I saw Joe feel way more comfortable, like saying how he was feeling and checking in with Michelle about how she was feeling. And so I see that. My concern here is, is Michelle foregoing some of her values of finding a friendship, of finding energy in a relationship long-term for the sake of this chemistry that is valid and the attraction that she feels with Joe?
And the story she's built up in her head.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the Mr. and Mrs. Basketball thing, she's talked about that a lot. And I think a lot of people in general can struggle with building up this story before we truly know a person, right? Like we're already envisioning what we will look like going down the aisle before our second date. What are we going to look like on Instagram? What will family gatherings look like? And it's like, I don't even know who you are yet, this person in front of me that I'm dating. And so I feel like, especially since they had chatted on Instagram before, like he's a known entity to her. She knows a bit about his past. And so this story, right, there's more material for her to build up in her mind. And I do feel like having a family that she can vibe with is important to her. And I wonder if she will be able to find that same kind of vibe and dynamic with his family. Right. I do want to say that Hannah said she noticed how Joe, looks like he's been working on expressing or articulating his feelings. And I thought that was really great that she did make a comment about that. Yeah. Because that means that someone who knows him, like, can see, not just us, the viewers. But yeah, it was fascinating. And there's nothing wrong with having a quiet family. No. Like, there is no right or wrong in that sense. You know what I mean? I will much rather take a quiet, soft-spoken family over an explosively emotional, dysregulated family, right? Like I would. I agree with you. I just wonder how much of her attachment to Joe is because of Joe. Yeah. And how much is it because of the story of how they came to be? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally agree. At the risk of sounding redundant, it does sort of feel like a really common challenge that people face when they're dating. Are you dating me or the idea of me? Right. Am I attached to this version of you that I've built up that mirror and marries parts of you with what I want you to be and what I want for myself? So that'll definitely be interesting to see play out, because I will say that, like, while I think that they're very cute together, and who knows, like they could, let's say that they end up together, and long term, they could build a really strong friendship with each other through shared experiences, and just lots of time spent. But without having that information in front of us now, it's hard to see a close friendship together. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And the other thing that I wanted to say that I am now forgetting because I'm having a brain fart. Is I do want to try and give a little bit of a benefit of the doubt to the fam, because it's like, if they're already quiet and soft-spoken people, and then you bring in a production team of like lights, camera, action. God, yes. I can only imagine how much more that's going to make you quiet and soft-spoken. And so I do want to say that a part of me very much feels that we didn't get a complete insight to their family dynamic, because I think that they're private people. I think that they like to keep to themselves. And I think having a national network come in and put a camera in your face and make you have really intimate conversations about someone you barely know. I do want to say, like, I don't know if we got a full insight into their traditional family dynamic.
That's so true. I'm so glad you said that.
So what I wrote to recap this, I put a note here saying that Joe says that his feelings for her are getting stronger and that he's falling in love with her. Yay, is what I put.
Which I did.
But my
celebrate.
recap note is I said, super interesting options so far. Brandon, the playful companion, Rodney, the giggly best friend, or Joe, the quiet, gentle lover. I just thought it was really fascinating to be able to see how different each of these guys are. Yeah. And yet similar in certain ways, which to me is a testament to Michelle. Yeah. Like, she knows what she's looking for, because all of these guys at this point, they'd be okay.
Yeah.
I am a little concerned about Nate, but we'll talk about that.
We're going to talk about Nate. I love your character descriptions of them. I actually think that they're really like spot on, super spot on.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Came to me in the moment.
Led with inspiration. Okay.
Yes.
We're on Nate. Nate's on us.
We are. Nate, my man.
Nate.
You know, she describes with Nate this, and I quote, instant kinetic energy, the moment that she's with him. And I just made a note of that just because I am kind of similar to how we were talking about with Joe, like, how are you falling in love with this buildup? I'm wondering if that spark, that, like, I want to call it lust just because I don't think that's what it all is, but I do think a part of it is that, like, she's super physically attracted to him. Because usually when we describe an instant kinetic energy, the moment that we're with someone, that's usually what it's stemming from. Right. Or it could be anxiety and we just don't know how to label them. That's also a thing that happens. But story for another day. So then she says this to him, which is, I want to know what you think of this. Because to me, this was confirmation of what I just said. She said to Nate, I'm nervous around you, but excited to meet the people in your life. She did say she was nervous. She was like, I'm nervous. And he's like, what, really? And she was like, yeah, I'm nervous around you. I do. I get nervous around you, but I am excited to meet the people that are special to you. And I thought that was fascinating, that of all the days to choose to admit that, it was this day. What about you?
This date, in hindsight, has showed me a lot of the things that Michelle has withheld as far as like some of her reservations or fears that she has with Nate. I think that she's been really forthcoming about the more positive features of how she feels about him. I want to use parts language here. And I think that like there's parts of her that are really excited by Nate, really attracted to Nate, really invested in Nate. And then there are parts of her that are nervous, worried, concerned. And I think that she's been very vocal with him about the positive parts, right? So when you ask me, like, what do I think about him? What do I think about her saying I'm nervous? I thought that it was just this like very quick glimpse into her the rest of her feelings, and he's not clued in on it, and I saw a theme of that in the rest of the episode. I don't think that it was totally inappropriate for her to be nervous because it is a nerve-wracking situation, but she did seem more nervous than she did with the rest of his, with the rest of the other hometown play dates. Yeah.
So when I heard her say that, I very much felt like, because I feel like for Michelle now, this is real. Like, she can look at any of these guys and be like, yeah, I could see myself walking down the aisle to you. Like, I do feel like she genuinely is starting to think that way. And that is why the nervousness is now starting to be on the surface. Like, it's not as fun and like playful. It's starting to get real. Like, you're meeting these people's families. They're meeting your families. Usually is what happened next. You know, you're about to get physically intimate with them. Like, there's a lot that's coming up. And so I feel for her as her wheels are spinning and she's kind of analyzing each relationship, I feel like where that came in, like, Nate is the last person's family she's meeting, again, assuming they order them the way in which they meet them. And I think for her in that moment, she was really excited to see him because I do genuinely think obviously she likes him and she's attracted to him. And as you said, that part of her that's like, okay, this is getting real. And there's parts of Nate I don't know yet. That is where that nervousness is coming in. And I am proud of her for saying it, you know, because again, this was another moment where the energy of her was very palpable. Or is that even the right word?
Girl, I am not the one.
Hopefully that's the right word, but like, you could sense it, you could feel it, you know, and he he made space for him to hear, like, okay, yeah, you're nervous.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
He does on this date open up to her and is like, I know we haven't talked much about family. You know, my mom and my stepdad, even though they're divorced, they're here, which, side note, I think that's a huge show of character for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then he starts to say, you know, I didn't grow up with a family that was super touchy, no, I love yous. He said that. And for me, that was like a, okay. And my next question, if I was Michelle in that moment, I'd be like, wow, thanks so much for sharing that to me. Like, what have you done to kind of, you know,
how do you show
process
love?
that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good question. How do you process that? What do you make of that?
Yeah. How has that impacted you? Because my fear in that is that Michelle is accustomed to having a lot of affection.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I know about love languages is that if your partner's love language doesn't come naturally to you, you need to be willing to adopt it and embrace it, just like I've had to do with Jordan's, right? And so, and it took time. And so I'm just a little concerned there if there's going to be a mismatch in ability to be affectionate.
Yeah, agreed. And I'm glad that you highlighted that. And again, here, I think that there was a missed opportunity to have an honest conversation about the fact that they come from totally different places and have different experiences of love. And that does not mean that two people can't have a successful relationship in which they, as you mentioned, both adopt each other's love languages and learn how to show love to the other person in the way that they can receive it.
Yeah.
But it would have to include some sort of a conversation to learn about that from each other. And I would have thought that learning that about each other would have been really important before she got to her next rose ceremony.
Yeah, I agree. And so as they start to enter the family time part of the date, she does say, and like a confessional thing, that, you know, him not introducing any past girlfriends to his family is a bit of a red flag. Yeah. And I thought that was really great that she had the awareness to kind of like bookmark that mentally to then investigate it. Yeah. Right. I think it's really important for us doing what we do. And I talk to my clients this way, is like, red flags don't automatically, some do. Some red flags are catastrophic enough where it's like an automatic, this ain't gonna work. And some red flags can be explored and worked on and improved, right? And so for her, she's just making the mental note and gathering the evidence, is the language I like to use, of like, okay, noted, Nate hasn't, this is the big deal for him. He's never introduced a girlfriend to his family before. Now I want to figure out why that is, right? Because if I'm being honest, I'm the first girlfriend Jordan's mom's ever met. Yeah. And not because he didn't want to introduce girlfriends, but because she didn't want to meet him. Yeah. You know? So now it's, and that's fine. You know, everyone has their boundaries, but like, now that this is a serious relationship for him, she's more open to being like, okay, let me get to know this Alex girl, you know, which is great. Right. But that's kind of where my mind was going with Nate, is that have you not introduced someone because of a lack of relationship with your family, because it's never been serious enough, or has it been your family has been like, unless it's serious, I'm not really down, you know? So that's kind of what I was looking for during this date. What about you? What was your whole opinion on that?
I pointed out the same thing. I was I had the same questions that you did. To me, someone not bringing anyone home before does not necessarily mean that it's an immediate red flag, because of all of those possible factors, and add in many more that you mentioned. I think we didn't get to learn all of the details of what Nate's relationship is like with his family. It's obviously like pretty complicated. That doesn't mean that it's not healthy, but it's complicated because he seems to have a relationship with his biological dad. He seems to have a relationship with his mother. He seems to have a very strong relationship with his stepfather. They're no longer together. Love wasn't expressed, though it's very clear that like love is very much shared, but not necessarily expressed. We don't know how it's expressed. We didn't learn that. We don't know about Nate's dating patterns with other women. Right. His family did not speak to that really. They just noted the fact that this is not someone that they've ever known partners of. So I think that there's more to learn there. I think what became a red flag to me was the different levels of emotional maturity between Michelle and Nate. And I became a bit worried about, again, them not talking about it because it's not to say that he can't get there. It's not to say, because
Right.
he's already developing. I think that conversation that he ended up having with his stepdad, where they exchanged "I love yous" in a really really intentional and meaningful way, was personally a really important moment for him. And we saw that on live television. Like it happened like,
I wrote it all down.
yeah, it happened right in front of our faces. And I actually think that was, and I do appreciate that he named like, this night is supposed to be about Michelle meeting my family, but this conversation that I had with my family was like, sometimes
needed.
Yeah, that was needed. And I was really glad that he had that.
Me too.
But I have a lot to say on this. It felt it felt that there was just so much more for the two of them to talk about those differences before they got to a rose ceremony. And
agreed.
And something else that I really think that they needed to talk about was Michelle's realization of her concerns about, is Nate really in this? Because the feedback that she was getting from his family is like, we can clearly tell that he likes you and he's genuine about his feelings about you. But because we've never seen him get even this far with anyone, and from what we know about our son, we don't know if he's going to be ready for an engagement. We don't know if he's going to be ready for that kind of commitment. And we don't know what that looks like for him. And it is totally valid that sparked concern for her. And I wish that she, as I would imagine healthy partnerships would include this, she would have called him, had a moment to talk with him before the rose ceremony, and had an honest conversation about that.
Yeah. Being completely honest, I thought Nate would be the one going home because of that lack of confirmation of like, okay, because like we know Rodney, is more there. Like he's had a little bit more relationship experience to know what he's wants as a man.
He's ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas Nate, and like, this is, I've been in my gut this entire time with Nate. I've known something wasn't right. I haven't fully trusted him for a reason. And now I know why. And I'm really happy that it's not because he is Martin or Chris S type. It's because the poor dude has some freaking childhood trauma that he hasn't fully worked through yet. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're doomed for a relationship. That doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship now. What that does mean is you need to be intentional about showing up and healing and actually implementing the skills that you need to become emotionally mature enough and prepared for marriage. Right? So no shame on Nate. In fact, I feel like this show has expedited a bit of his growth process because of how he's had to show up and like, because of, what this show entails and all of that. So, Nate, I wish you well, dude. Like I keep doing the work. I'm as if he's ever going to hear this, but I do feel that way, like I want him to continue this process no matter what happens between him and Michelle. You know what I mean?
Totally. And Nate, if you can hear this and you're not with Michelle, you can call me. I'm right there with you. Like I'm here for you, boo. I am here.
Free therapy.
And maybe a girlfriend. I don't know. We'll work out the details later. Have your people call out.
No,
people.
That's what I meant. Like girlfriend,
there we
girlfriend
go.
therapy.
That's true. Don't exploit me though.
Oh my God, don't exploit me. I do want to bring up one thing that Michelle said that I'm not a huge fan of, but every Bachelorette says this. I think every person says this on the majority of them, unless they have past relationship stuff. But
what is it?
The whole, I only want to be engaged once.
Ugh.
Everyone says it. Everybody. Then don't do it on national television.
Totally.
Is my opinion. Yeah. Because it's like you coming on a national television show where you are falling in love, yes, in a very unrealistic setting. Yeah. So first of all, let's all just unpack this a little bit. Go on an adventure with me.
I'm strapped in. I've got boots on.
Adventure one. If you are getting an all paid trip around usually the world, this time it's just this country, but hey, Minneapolis, Indian Wells, California. That's right. But free drinks, free food, you get to stay in nice properties, you get all these different experiences, these really out of the box dates that you typically probably can't afford to put on yourself or even think of, you know what I mean? If you just do that as an individual, you are already at this high vibe, this really ecstatic energy, you're happy, you're on vacation. Yeah. those feelings you feel when you're on vacation are present on the show for these people, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a new environment. So that in and of itself is enough to create this buzz, this energy. Now you throw in this dynamic of like, okay, I'm supposed to be falling in love. Well, it's much easier to fall in love in that vacation mode because, again, real life, bills, rent, drama, car accidents, anything that happens, right? Drama at work.
Yeah.
You're not even working while you're on the show. Like, you know, it makes it so much easier to fall into that. And so then if you go on this show as a contestant making this inner vow of I only want to be engaged once, you are doing yourself a disservice because the amount of frustration, shame, and heartbreak that comes if the relationship doesn't work out is that much more.
Absolutely. You're setting yourself for disappointment.
So it's like, take that pressure off of yourself, right? Like, I'm on this to sure, get engaged. And I do love that. I think it was with Rodney's family when they asked, like, you know, are you really hoping an engagement will come out of this? She's like, at the end, I'm going to do what I think is right. So, like, I applaud that. Yeah. But the reality is that there is a huge amount of pressure to get the Neil Lane ring, do the bling bling, get on the knee, and do that whole thing, you know, like, and yeah, I just wish all contestants would just be kinder to themselves and not be like, this is only the one time I'm going to be engaged, because let me tell you, the majority of them break up.
Yeah, it just feels like such an antiquated expectation of modern relationships. Like, how refreshing would it actually be if the expression and the hope was, I hope that I end up picking someone that I can fall in love with for a really long time. Yeah. Instead of, I want to be engaged once. It just feels like, it feels reductive of what the purpose of finding a true partner in life is about.
Yeah. Yeah. And the amount of, okay, so I'm not sure if, let me just speak from my own personal experience. I've been engaged, I've been married, and I've been divorced. And at the time, I very much made that inner vow to me. Like, you're only going to do this once. You're only going to get married once. And a lot of that stemmed from the religious pressures that I grew up with, you know. And no one gets married wanting to get divorced. No one gets engaged wanting to break up. And the amount of disappointment in myself or self-loathing that I had to work through because of that expectation that I put on myself and feeling like a failure was so much more work because of that mindset of like, I'm only supposed to do this once. And so, yeah, like I shit happens, life happens. And so learning to be present and being like, this is where I am today, and I love you this much today, especially in this scenario with this show, in my opinion, is the mindset, is what should be the mindset.
That's what we should be modeling. I feel that, like, it's hard enough to go through the experiences that you described going through. Do you deserve to add all of the pressure of a perceived failure on top of it? No.
Yeah, because it's not failure.
It's not failure.
It's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
No.
First of all,
it's a lesson learned.
Getting divorced was the best thing that you could have possibly done for your fucking life.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's an entirely 100%. Different episode. But so let's just name it there, that this stuff, these things that we have come to identify as failures are very much not the case, and get you more failures.
Be nicer to yourself. And then we have this scene where, well, before I move on, are you good with everything with me? Is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Yeah.
So she's in her room, and her two besties, Bree and Serena, show up. Not my Bree. No. My Bree's you, but a different Bree.
I also love that Bree. Bree Spriggs is like a queen amongst queens. I fucking love her.
She's cool. That's awesome. I don't know too much about her. Serena, I do adore though. And so, but this is what's so great. And like, is you can, remember a couple episodes where I was like, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It is so true. Like, the people you choose to surround yourself with have an impact on who you are as a human being. And they also, for those of us watching our partners or the people we're dating, that matters too. So I love that they showed up. I will say, you know, Serena, when she asked Michelle, do you feel like all the guys are ready for an engagement? Michelle kind of skirted the question. After she was sharing privately, you know, in her room with this voiceover, you know, I'm really concerned about Nate, like that put some doubts in my eye. And then she completely didn't share it, or at least with what we saw. Maybe she did behind the scenes and they just didn't edit that in there. But what they did make it seem like was Michelle kind of skirted that question. And then we jump right into the rose ceremony.
We get right into it. And again, I was like, where's the conversation with Nate? Where's the opportunity?
I know.
Why not take the opportunity to be like, hey, I'm scared. Can we hold this fear together? Can I talk to you about I want to check in with you. Is this something that you're ready for? Like, there are so many ways to be able to do that with the pressure of a rose ceremony where you're making a choice to keep this person that you have reservations about and let go of someone who is ready. And maybe her feelings about Rodney were just like so clear that it didn't even matter.
Not there.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, why not like check in and see if you can meet on the same level, even if you're having different feelings and even if those feelings would be scary to the other person.
Yeah, that will be something I look for in next week's episode with the fantasy suites. I will look for that combo. And if it doesn't happen, then that'll be the first time where I'm like, all right, Michelle. Yeah. That was the one piece of feedback I have for you.
Yeah, literally.
This entire season.
Literally.
Yeah. So we will see, but I completely agree. And I think to your point, when we are scared about something in our relationship, narrating your internal experience is so much better than coming at the person with what you're scared about, right? I'm scared that you haven't introduced people to your family before. Yeah. That can feel very offensive. Yeah. Whereas it's like, I'm scared because I care so much about you and I'm just curious if we match, like if we match our emotional maturity, if we are a good fit, like I want to talk through some of the things we're working through, you know, completely different vibe, you know, less opportunity for the person to become defensive because you're expressing your fears because of how much you care about them. Right. So, yeah, I'm with you. I was really surprised that we didn't see, I thought for sure something was going to go down after that, but no. But
the only thing that did go down was poor Rodney was sent home.
I know.
He handled it so well and he was so kind, and Michelle did sort of like a runaround of it's not you, it's me type of a thing, but she didn't actually get specific, and I don't know what that would have sounded like if she did. I don't think that we really heard exactly why she was choosing to let Rodney go, even in like a private like producer interview. So
yeah,
I'm curious. I'm curious, but I thought he handled it really well. I thought that he was respectful in front of her. I thought he was respectful when she wasn't right in front of him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. 100%. She, I do like what she said, like, you are enough. I need you to know that. I feel like anytime anyone gets dumped, the first thing is like, why not me? Like, what's not good enough about me? And it's like, honestly, it's not you. It's just that her feelings for other people are stronger. And, yeah, I don't recall her necessarily using those words either. And I don't know how much Rodney, I feel like he figured that out. I don't know. He was really okay with it.
Yeah.
It was interesting to watch. I mean, he expressed, you know, I'm going to probably care about you for the rest of my life and all that stuff, which
that broke my little heart.
A part of me kind of rolls my eyes when I hear that, if I'm being honest. Only because it's like, in my logical mind, and this is the thing, I'll be really honest here, I'm going to take ownership of my eye roll because the reason that happens for me is because in my logical mind, it's like, it's been 6 weeks-ish at this point that you've known this person, and like, and at the same time, I can acknowledge I haven't experienced that. I don't know what it's like being in that environment. And so to make a big statement on like, I'm going to care about you for the rest of my life is kind of like, it makes me wonder are you though? Or are you going to care about her till you meet
someone else,
the next person who's an amazing fit for you? Right.
Yeah, that's so true.
So me, like, that's where my mind goes when I hear those big statements on this show, is like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's neither here nor there. I'm just being really honest.
Yeah, no,
my own internal experience hearing language.
I agree with you. That's not exactly a promise that you can keep. Sometimes it's true. There are people in my life that regardless of how what transpired between us, like, I will have deep, like, a deep care for the rest of my life. But I can't predict that. I couldn't have even predicted that I would still care about them, So you have to be careful not to put that out in the world to someone that's going to receive it and take it for face value.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So red flag and green flag of the week.
Just on the same topic of this, like, green flag was, Rodney's, like, grace. I thought that he handled, the breakup in a really mature way. And I thought she handled it really well too. So I'll give it to both of them.
Yeah.
What about yours?
Cool. So that's the green flag. Yeah. Mine is Hannah, Joe's sister, actually. And just how she was able to witness and share with us that, like, oh yeah, I am seeing that he can articulate his feelings a little bit more, and that's something he's working. Because if I'm being honest, she's the one out of the entire family that very much was, like, vocal, and, like, she stated her mind and all of that. And so to have her be like, after meeting Michelle and, like, seeing how she feels about Michelle and her character and her vibe, and then watching Joe interact with her, I felt that was a big green flag, that Hannah, as a family member who hasn't witnessed this entire journey, can come in with a fresh set of eyes and be like, oh, there's some growth here.
Yeah.
So that's my green flag.
Yeah, she was very much the narrator of Joe's family. It would have been a very different episode if Hannah was not present. And just a reminder, Hannah is Joe's sister-in-law. It was really helpful to have her there, sort of coding the situation.
Agreed. Yeah. Yep. What about red flag?
My red flag is, and I've said it so many times in this episode, but it's Michelle not creating an opportunity to share her fears with Nate and be vulnerable. I think why it's such a big red flag for me is because it's sort of like triggering a pattern of my own behavior that I'm really trying to get away from, which is withholding negative feelings, withholding fears, withholding concerns, at the risk of shaking up what I feel has been, like, a very positive dynamic that's been built up. Like, sometimes I hold on to, well, I actually didn't like this, or actually I'm really concerned about that, because I'm like, but it's going so well and I don't want them to not like me.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think that's also why it's hitting pretty hard for me.
Yeah. Girl, I feel you there. And like I said, I really hope she does say something next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She has to. It's Michelle,
she's got
right?
to. And also, like, what good television content. So, like, we're going to get it.
So good. Yeah. I really hope so. Otherwise, yeah.
What's your red flag?
I said this before, and again, like, to me, it's more of like a yellow flag, just because it depends on how Nate handled it. But him sharing, like, him not having a touchy feeling or no I love yous growing up. I am concerned about how much work he's done on that, and how he will be able to show up for a partner, whether it's Michelle or anyone else. Like, I just want to explore that more. I want to have the conversation you had. Mm-hmm. So I guess our red flags are pretty similar. Mm-hmm. They're just focused on the opposite person.
Yeah. sounds about right in the case of Nate and Michelle.
Yeah. So let me just, like, preface. We're gonna talk about the argument of, can men and women truly be friends? And now here is why this came up in our Ditch the Script world, is because on the subreddit of Bachelor Nation, there was a huge thread about Katie Thurston, our previous bachelor, our previously previous Bachelorette. And there was a clip of her going around on this podcast where she has been describing, she has a really good friendship with one of her contestants whom she sent home on the second week of her show, named John. And, she was describing her dynamic about, I'm really, really close with John, but Blake, while they were still together, Blake is such a great fiance. He doesn't care. He lets me go out and is like, do what you need to do. No big deal. He's not threatened by my friendship with John. And Katie was trying to make a point that that's something she really appreciates in her partner. Well, lo and behold, time passes. Her and Blake broke up. And now it is known that her and John are they're dating, and they're going to a Christmas festival type ball here in the next couple weeks publicly together.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the comment thread of this post within the subreddit was, can men and women truly be friends? Like Blake is dumb. Like she was cheating on him the whole time. There were a lot of really big opinions about that. And, for those of you who don't know, the whole reason we started this podcast was because of some of the things that we were seeing left unaddressed from Katie's season. So I felt like it would be kind of interesting for you and I to unpack, male and female friendships and what that looks like.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just as an upfront disclaimer, neither one of us know nearly enough about like Katie's relationship or the intimate, like the intricate details of like her getting on with John and her relationship with Blake. So we are really using this as inspiration to tackle like an issue that is like as old as time. And I'm honestly removing Katie from it.
Yeah.
Because I just honestly...
That is just why we're talking about it.
Literally. Because at this point, Katie Thurston, I want good things for you, but I don't care about you.
You're old news.
Yeah, I don't care about you anymore. So can men and women be friends? I have a lot of personal feelings and personal experiences with this. And I will say that my feelings on this have changed a lot. So...
Yep.
In the past, I used to feel that men and women really couldn't be friends. I felt that like there was always going to be some sort of level of, so this is like in the space of like heteronormative, like heterosexual.
Right. Yes. Dynamics.
Yeah. I was just like, it was really like spellbound to the fact that like this idea that men are only ever interested in women's bodies and having sex with women. So it just, that also feels quite reductive because I think that that's not fair to assume that men can have no interest in women outside of like a sexual setting or sexual acts. That's so unfair to men as a group. So I'll start there.
So true.
What do you think?
Yeah. I'm with you. Like, I mean, I've also been cheated on quite a bit by people who are quote unquote just friends. Yeah. Like I have. And so a part of me is like, I feel this. My like if I was on a jury, I feel it's possible. I feel like there needs to be boundaries. And I think that there needs to be a conversation because every couple is going to be different and every couple is going to approach friendships outside of the relationship differently. And I think that people need to come together and pull them for the chat, have the conversation around what's going on. So like for me with Jordan, I'm very much upfront with like, look, I have an insecurity that I'm working on, right? Because like I said last week, our insecurities cannot tether our partner down. Our insecurities cannot turn into controlling behaviors, right? Because then it's not healthy. So, however, at the same time, I can let my partner in on my internal world of what I've been through and what my concerns are. And then we together as a team can build up what our boundaries are that we both feel comfortable with establishing. Because the reality is that there are men out there that I've been cheated on by women who claim that they're just friends. It happens both ways. It's not like one gender is completely responsible for this. Yeah. And that is my point, is that we need to stop assuming that all men are the guys that have female friends and they're the evil ones. And it's like, no, it's not evil to have someone with different genitalia or as a friend.
So true.
It is how you maintain your romantic relationship and how you protect that and handle your friendships outside of that relationship. That matters.
Amen. I totally agree. I like in my own personal life, I have a number of pretty close male friendships, and there are some of those men that, yeah, if I took away the boundaries that we both have in place and said, the door is open, if you want to smash, I'm here. Yeah, chances are I'm going to get a yes, right? Chances are I'm going to be like, where, when, and like who, what, why, how. I forgot all my questions.
I'll bring the comments.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not to say that like, I think that it's important to name that men and women can think about having sex with each other and still not do it.
Yeah.
My friendships with the men in my life, my platonic friendships with the men in my life, I don't think that it's realistic that they've never thought about me in a sexual setting before, but I think that they have proved with their actions that they can respect that our relationship has to have boundaries, and for me on the same front. So we continue to maintain that. Now, I'm not currently in a relationship, as you mentioned. I think that that's a really important tool to like move into my next relationship with, because it's possible that I could meet a partner that feels totally unbothered by the fact that I have friends.
Right.
I have friends that are men that I've had for almost my entire life at this point. And I think that it's also possible that I could be with a partner that is like, I feel really uncomfortable with that. And I would hope that that person's able to sit with me long enough to have a conversation so that I can let them in on why these friendships work in the way that they do, why we've been able to be platonic for the 15 years that I've known them. And that and here's also the open door to continue to let me know when you feel triggered, when you feel bothered, when you feel scared, when you feel insecure. Like I want to be able to,
reassure you.
Yeah, I want to be able to be there with you in that without it feeling like you don't trust me, you don't trust me, you don't trust me. That's twisting it a little bit, because it's not about me. It's about how this situation makes them feel.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like that's it. That's our answer. Yeah. It is not a one size fits all answer. It can't be, because everyone's different. Everyone has different thresholds with what they are and are not okay with happening. And so have the conversation. Again, pull them for the chat. We need merch. We just need to get merch. Like, how cool would that be? Yeah. I also, side note, I think someday it would be really fun, big scary dream for you and I to do a mixer.
Yes.
How fun would that be? Like people that like people we've worked with and like, or anyone like but having a healthy space to meet people and create healthy relationships.
Yeah, I love that. What a good idea.
Yeah, we'll go to all the major cities, New York City, LA, Chicago, Miami, and we'll have mixers. That's my big scary dream. I'm kind of telling you.
I love to be voluntold, first of all. I love mixers. I'm such an extrovert. Put me in a room full of people. That's my favorite thing to do.
Yes. And I used to be an events manager, so like I know.
Baby, we got the skills.
It's gonna happen.
We've got the tools.
We got the skills. Together we will make it happen.
I love that.
All right. Well, that's this week's episode. Thanks for listening. If you don't already, follow us on social media at Ditch the Script Pod on Instagram and TikTok. What else, Brie?
Come to our website and ask questions so that we can answer them live on our episodes. We will answer them anonymously. You want to go to www.ditchthescriptpod.com and let us know what you're challenged with.
And we will give you a real solution.
In real time, we hope.
Yes. Other than that, if you like today's episode, share it on the gram, tag us, leave a review, send the link to your friends, cousins, whatever.
Mom. Send it to Mom.
Until next time.
We love you. Bye.